The stars were burning cold when Captain Sung first saw them, not the normal stars that humanity had mapped for 200 years. These stars moved. They danced in patterns that should not exist, forming symbols in the void that hurt to look at. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," said HFY from her station. The chief engineer's hands moved quickly across her controls, but Sung could see the tremor in her fingers. It's coming from everywhere at once." The screen flickered to life. A being stood before them, tall and silver, with eyes that glowed like dying suns. Its form seemed to shift between solid and light, as if it could not decide what shape to hold. "I am commander of the Empire," the being said. Its voice came not from speakers but from the air itself. "You have been found. We have watched your species crawl from your small world. We have seen you reach for the stars with your primitive hands. Now, your time of ascension has come." Sung stood slowly. His ship, the Horizon's Edge, was humanity's finest achievement. But looking at the being on the screen, he felt like a child with a toy boat facing an ocean. "We are honored by your contact," Sung said carefully. "Humanity welcomes peaceful relations with—" "Peace?" His laugh was like thunder. "There is no peace. There is only order. For 200,000 years we have brought order to the chaos of the galaxy. 847 species kneel before us. They know us as what we are. They call us gods." The screen changed. Sung saw worlds, thousands of them. On each world, beings of every shape and size bowed before massive temples. The temples bore the same symbol he had seen in the stars. On every world, the people sang the same prayer in different tongues. "You see," continued, "they worship us because we are worthy of worship. We can move stars, we can birth worlds, we can erase civilizations with a thought." The being leaned forward. "You will join them, you will kneel, or you will cease to exist." HFY made a small sound. Sung looked at her, then back at the screen. "We need time to consider," he said. 30 days, replied. "We are generous. We give you time to understand. Send your leaders, send your ships, come to our home, see what gods can do. Then choose, kneel and ascend, or resist and end." The transmission cut. The stars stopped moving. They were just stars again. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then HFY whispered, "Captain, did you see their ship?" "What ship?" "Exactly." She pulled up the sensor data. "No ship, no station, nothing. The transmission came from empty space. How do you transmit from nothing?" Sung felt cold. "Send everything back to Earth, all of it." The message reached Earth in 3 days. The response took 2 more. Earth's governments argued and fought. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to fight. Most were simply terrified. In the end, they decided to send Sung's ship to see, to understand, to witness what gods could do. The journey took 2 weeks. Sent coordinates. The Horizon's Edge followed them to a region of space that appeared empty on all scans. Then HFY input the final code, and suddenly it was there. A world that should not exist. It was not a planet. It was not a station. It was something between, something beyond. A sphere of impossible size covered in structures that reached into space like fingers. The structures glowed with light that changed color every moment. Around the sphere, 3 suns orbited, not the sphere orbiting the suns orbiting the sphere. "That's impossible," HFY breathed. "You can't make suns orbit anything. The mass required would be divine," said a new voice. They all turned, stood in their ship, inside their ship. It had simply appeared as if it had always been there. "I am your guide," the being said. "I will show you what awaits those who ascend. Come." Sung had no choice. He followed. HFY came with him. They touched the wall and the wall opened. Not a door, just an opening where there had been solid metal. They stepped through and found themselves on the surface of the sphere. Thousands of beings walked the streets, aliens of every type. Some had 6 legs, some floated, some were made of crystal, all wore robes marked with the symbol. The faithful, their guide said. They come from across the galaxy to serve, to worship, to be blessed. A procession passed by. Aliens carried a platform. On the platform sat a single. The aliens sang as they walked. Their song was beautiful and terrible. It spoke of masters and servants, of gods and mortals, of an order that would never end. 847 species, the guide continued. All found their way to us. All chose to kneel. All live in peace under our guidance. What if they hadn't chosen to kneel? Sung asked quietly. The guide stopped. It turned to face him. For a moment, Sung saw something in its eyes, not anger, confusion, as if the question had never been asked before. Then they would not exist, the guide said simply. To resist the divine is to embrace nothing. This is known. This has always been known. They were led to a great hall. Inside, Commander waited on a throne of light. Around him, others stood like statues. Below, hundreds of aliens prostrated themselves. "Welcome, humans," said. His voice filled the hall. "You have seen, you have witnessed. What is your answer?" Sung looked at the bowing aliens. He looked at the on their thrones. He looked at HFY, who stared at everything with an engineer's eyes. "We need more time," Sung said. 15 days remain, replied. "Use them wisely. The choice is simple: join eternity or face oblivion." As they were led away, HFY leaned close to Sung. "Captain," she whispered, "I've been scanning everything, the throne, the walls, the very air. And it's all technology, ancient technology, incredibly advanced but still just technology." She paused. "Gods don't need machines, Captain, they just don't." Sung said nothing, but in his mind a simple thought formed, a dangerous thought, a human thought. If they were truly gods, why did they need to prove it so badly? Wu had studied alien life for 15 years. She had examined bacteria from ice moons and fungi from desert worlds. She had cataloged 300 species across 50 planets, but nothing had prepared her for this. "They're all believers," she said, reviewing her scans of the alien crowds. "Every single species we've encountered here. True believers, not pretending, not afraid. They genuinely think they are gods." Wu Jin, the Marine commander, checked his weapon for the 3rd time. They were guests, but he did not trust gods who needed guards. Brainwashing. "I checked for that." Wu pulled up her neural scans. "No implants, no chemical manipulation, no psychic influence. They just believe." Sung watched the street below their quarters. More processions passed. More songs rose to the artificial sky. "Then why do they believe?" "Because they've never seen anything else," HFY said from her workstation. She had been working for 8 hours straight, barely sleeping. "Captain, I've been going through humanity's records. Every species they encountered was either pre-space flight or very early space age. The most advanced had barely colonized their own moons. So imagine you're a species that just invented radio. Suddenly, beings appear who can move stars and reshape worlds. What would you think they were?" Sung understood. "We're different. Yes, we've had faster-than-light travel for 2 centuries. We've colonized 40 systems. We've seen wonders and built them ourselves. We know what's possible and what's not." HFY turned to face him. "To us, they're just very advanced aliens, but to everyone else, they're gods." A chime sounded. Their guide had arrived to take them to the morning ceremony. This time, it was High Oracle who would speak, the highest religious authority of the temple was carved from a single diamond the size of a mountain. Inside, 10,000 aliens gathered. They represented 300 species, all dressed in their ceremonial robes, all bearing the mark of the divine. High Oracle appeared in a flash of light. The crowd gasped and bowed. The oracle was older than the others, its silver skin marked with patterns that glowed softly. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Faithful ones," it said, "you have been chosen. Of all the countless species in the dark between stars, you were found worthy. You were elevated. You were saved from the chaos of ignorance and the pain of progress. Here, under our guidance, you know peace, you know purpose, you know love." The crowd began to chant. It was a sound that made Sung's skin crawl, not because it was wrong, but because it was so willing, so complete. "The new ones watch," continued, turning to where the humans stood. "They do not yet understand, they cling to their pride, they think themselves apart, but they will learn, all kneel, all join the eternal order." After the ceremony, they were granted a private audience. Sat on a simple chair now, its divine light dimmed. It looked almost ordinary. "You have questions," the oracle said. "Ask. We hide nothing from those who will soon join us." Wu Jin stepped forward before Sung could stop him. The Marine had been quiet for days, watching everything with hard eyes. Now he spoke. "If you're gods," Wu Jin said slowly, "why do you need ships?" The silence was absolute. Stared at Wu Jin. Other in the room stirred. One made a sound like breaking glass. "What?" the oracle finally said. "Ships, stations, temples, machines." Wu Jin gestured around. "Gods don't need tools, they just do, but you use technology. Advanced technology, yes. Ancient technology, certainly. But still technology. So either you're not gods or gods are just another word for really old aliens with really good machines." Sung held his breath. You did not question gods. Not here. Not surrounded by 10,000 believers in the divine themselves. But did not strike them down. Instead, it looked confused. It turned to the other, who looked equally lost. "The tools are," the oracle began, then stopped. The divine manifests through." It could not finish. For 200,000 years, no one had questioned. No subject species had ever thought to ask why gods needed starships and temples and tools. They had simply accepted. "We manifest our will through sacred instruments," finally said, but its voice lacked certainty. "This is how it has always been." "Has it?" Wu asked quietly. She had been studying the temple walls. "These patterns, I've seen them before. They're not religious. They're programming, machine code, incredibly sophisticated but still code." "Enough," one of the others stepped forward. "You will not speak such blasphemy, the faithful." "Aren't here," Hayone interrupted. "It's just us. So tell me, when was the last time your people invented something new, not discovered, not inherited, invented?" The stared at her. "That's what I thought," Hayone said softly. Rose, its light returned, bright and angry. "You will leave. You will return to your ship. You have 13 days to make your choice. Choose wisely. Choose obedience. Choose life." They were escorted out by guards who appeared from nowhere. Silent who touched them, and suddenly they were back on their ship. Teleportation, Sung thought, or something that looked like it. As soon as they were alone, Wu Jin spoke. "Did you see their faces?" "They were confused," Wu said. "Genuinely confused, as if the question never occurred to them." "Because it didn't," Hayone said. She was already at her station pulling up data. "Captain, I've been analyzing everything. Their ships, their stations, their technology. It's all standardized. All identical patterns. Nothing new, nothing innovative. Just the same designs repeated across light years and eons." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying they haven't invented anything in thousands, maybe tens of thousands of years. They maintain, they preserve, they operate, but they don't create." Sung sat down heavily. "And the subject species? All worship technology they don't understand, all accept what they're given. None advance beyond the point of first contact." Haywon's voice was grim. "They don't allow progress. They can't. If their subjects advance too far, they might start asking questions. Questions like Wu Jin asked." The communication panel chimed. "Earth was calling," Sung answered. Sang Ho, the UN ambassador, appeared on screen. His face was tired. "Captain, Earth has made its decision. And we will not kneel." Sang Ho's voice was firm despite his exhaustion. "The council debated for 3 days. Some wanted surrender, some wanted war. In the end, we chose ourselves. Whatever these are, gods or ancients or something else, we will not worship them. We will not trade our freedom for their order. Sung felt something in his chest, pride perhaps, or terror. They'll come for us. We know Admiral So-min is preparing the defense fleet. It's not much against star movers, but it's what we have. Sang-ho leaned forward. Sung, find their weakness. There has to be one. Gods don't get angry when questioned. Gods don't need armies. Gods don't threaten. Find it. The transmission ended. Sung looked at his crew. You heard him. We have 13 days. Use them. Outside their ship, the impossible world spun. 3 suns danced in their ordained orbits. 10,000 species sang their prayers. And somewhere in the depths of the divine empire, ancient machines hummed their eternal songs, maintained by beings who had forgotten how they were built. Humanity had asked a simple question, why? And the gods had no answer. The Judgment Fleet appeared in Earth's sky 7 days early. They came without warning, simply existing where nothing had existed before. 50 massive vessels, each the size of a small moon, arranged in a perfect sphere around Earth. On the ground, people looked up and saw death. Admiral So-min stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship, the Indomitable. Around her, 200 Earth vessels assembled, ships built for exploration, retrofitted with weapons. Against the fleet, they looked like insects facing dragons. Ma'am, her tactical officer said quietly, they're powering weapons. Hold position, So-min ordered. She had been a physicist before becoming a soldier. She understood the energy readings she was seeing. 1 ship could vaporize a continent. 50 could crack a planet. Do not fire unless fired upon. A transmission came through. Commander appeared, as beautiful and terrible as always. Humanity, it said, your time has expired. You were given a choice. You chose unwisely. Now you will see what happens to those who defy the divine order. Your world will become a lesson. 847 species will watch. They will see what resistance brings. So-min straightened her uniform. This is Admiral So-min of Earth Defense. We speak for humanity. We will not surrender. We will not kneel. If you want our world, come and take it. Looked surprised, then it laughed. Brave words from insects. Your largest weapon could barely scratch our hull. Your greatest science is our ancient history. You have nothing that can harm us. Then why are you angry? So-min asked. The question hung in the space between fleets. We are not angry, said, but its voice suggested otherwise. We are disappointed. You could have ascended. You could have found peace. Instead, you choose extinction. We choose ourselves, So-min replied. That's more than your subjects can say. The transmission cut. For a moment, nothing happened. Then one of the ships fired. The beam was pure white light. It struck the moon and carved a crater 10 miles deep in seconds. The display of power was absolute. The message was clear. So-min waited for panic, for her fleet to break, for Earth to broadcast surrender. Instead, a young voice cut through on the command channel. Admiral, I'm in their network. What? So-min looked at her communications officer, who nodded confirmation. I hacked their communications 3 days ago when they first appeared. Been digging around. Ma'am, you need to see this. Data flooded So-min's screens. Protocols, battle plans, ship schematics, and something else, something crucial. They're running a program, explained quickly. Everything they do follows predetermined protocols. First contact protocol, worship ceremony protocol, judgment protocol. It's all scripted. They have procedures for every situation they've ever encountered. So they've never encountered this situation. Species aren't supposed to refuse and then talk back. The protocol says, demonstrate power, receive surrender, but we're not surrendering. Their system doesn't have a step 3. So-min looked at the data. Was right. The ships were powerful beyond measure, but they were following ancient programming. Programs written millions of years ago for scenarios that had repeated unchanged for eons. Can we use this? Maybe. Their ships are connected to a central network. Everything is coordinated. If we can confuse the network. Do it. His fingers flew across his keyboard back on Earth. In orbit, So-Min activated her fleet-wide channel. All ships, we're not going to win through firepower, so we're going to cheat. Follow my lead and stay alive. She ordered her flagship forward, toward the fleet. The other ships followed. His voice returned. You attack, foolish, we will. We surrender, So-Min shouted suddenly. The fleet stopped. So-Min could see the massive weapons powering down. You surrender, sounded uncertain. Yes, we were wrong, we kneel. So-Min made her voice desperate. Please spare us. I seemed confused. The protocol, yes, surrender is accepted. You will be brought to. Attack pattern Delta, So-Min screamed. Every human ship fired at once. Not at the ships, but at the space around them. Missiles, projectiles, debris. They created a cloud of chaos. You dare's voice was thunder. You. So-Min cut her engines and let her ship drift, dead in space. The other human ships did the same. To the sensors, they looked disabled. What is this? Demanded. What are you doing? Something you don't have in your protocols, So-Min said. We're improvising. The fleet moved to surround the disabled human ships. Their weapons charged. And then every human ship that had played dead roared to life, engines at maximum, scattering in random directions. His fleet tried to respond, but they were too close to each other, too organized. Their formation was perfect, which meant it was predictable. Human ships wove between them like fish through a net. This is not, you cannot, was struggling. The protocols had no answer for prey that pretended to be weak, then scattered. All ships fire at will. But the ships hesitated. Their targeting computers sought permission from the network. The network checked protocols. The protocols had no clear instruction for enemies that ran instead of fought, that lied instead of challenged. In those few seconds of hesitation, Wu Jin arrived. His team had stolen a shuttle from there, small, barely armed but fast. He had been hiding behind Earth's moon, waiting. Now he shot forward, directly at one of the massive battleships. At the last second, he detonated his shuttle's reactor. The explosion was tiny compared to the battleship, a firecracker against a mountain, but the shuttle was inside the ship's defensive perimeter. The blast damaged nothing critical, but it triggered alarms across the network. Impossible, shouted. Your weapons cannot. Wasn't a weapon. Wu Jin's voice came over the radio from an escape pod. Just a suicide run. You have protocols for weapons. You have protocols for tactics. What's your protocol for someone who doesn't care about living? The fleet pulled back. So-Min could see them reforming, creating distance. They were regrouping, recalculating. You see it now, So-Min said. Your power is absolute, your technology is superior, but you're predictable, you follow rules, we don't. We adapt. We change. We do things that make no sense because sense is just another limitation. You have done nothing, said, but its voice lacked certainty. You damaged one ship, we have 50, you cannot win. We're not trying to win, So-Min replied. We're trying to survive, and we'll do anything to survive. Lie, cheat, sacrifice, adapt. Can you say the same, or do you need to check your protocols first? The fleet hung in space. Humanity's fleet scattered around them, too chaotic to target easily. On Earth, people watched their defenders dance with gods and refused to die cleanly. His next words came slowly. This is not how warfare is conducted. There are rules, honorable combat, divine judgment. There are no rules, So-Min said. That's what makes us dangerous. We're willing to do whatever it takes, even things you consider impossible or dishonorable, especially those things. Back on the Sung watched the battle through hacked feeds. Haewon worked beside him, digging deeper into their systems. Captain, she said suddenly, I found something, the source, where all their technology comes from. Show me. She pulled up schematics, a structure deep in the heart of the world, something ancient beyond measure, vast beyond comprehension. It's a machine, HFY whispered. A god machine, built millions of years ago by, I don't know, but they don't control it, they just use it. Everything they do, every power they have comes from this. Sung stared at the schematic. Can we reach it? Maybe if we're very lucky, and very stupid. Then let's be both. The god machine lived in the deep places of the world, buried beneath miles of sacred temples and divine monuments. Had spent 3 days studying the scans that HFY sent. 3 days of barely sleeping, barely eating, just staring at something that should not exist. It's not technology, she said over the encrypted channel. Not in any sense we understand. It's something else, something older. It processes information using principles we haven't discovered yet, maybe can't discover. Sung watched Min and his team prepare for their mission. 5 soldiers, each carrying minimal weapons and maximum courage. Can we interact with it? I don't know, maybe. It's been dormant for, checked her calculations, at least 100,000 years. They use it, but they don't communicate with it. They just input requests and receive outputs, like using a calculator without knowing mathematics. What happens if we wake it up? I have absolutely no idea. Min finished checking his equipment. He was young for a special forces commander, only 32, but he had the kind of calm that came from accepting death years ago. Captain, we're ready. You know this is probably suicide. Probably, Min smiled. But if we don't try, it's definitely extinction. I'll take probably over definitely. They left in a stolen maintenance craft, disguised to look like one of the thousands of service drones that kept the world running. This work had made it possible. The diplomat had spent weeks making contact with the subject species, learning their languages, understanding their systems. The servants know everything, she had explained. They barely notice them. They're invisible. We can be invisible too. The maintenance craft descended through layers of reality that bent around the impossible world. Min watched his instruments go crazy, then settle, then go crazy again. Space itself was different here, folded, maintained by technologies from races dead before humans learned fire. They passed through checkpoints without challenge. They were distracted. Their fleet was still at Earth, still trying to solve the problem of humans who refused to follow protocols. Reports came in constantly. Admiral So-min was leading them on a chase through the solar system, never engaging, never retreating, just staying alive and annoying. Contact from HFY said from the horizon's edge. She's made progress with the subject species, planting doubts, showing them videos of the battle. Some are starting to question, not many but some. How are they reacting? With confusion. They're trying to suppress the information, but they're not good at it. They've never had to deal with subversion before. Everyone has always believed. The maintenance craft reached the lowest level. Min and his team disembarked into a corridor that stretched beyond sight. The walls were not metal or stone. They were something that looked like crystal and felt like liquid and rang like bells when touched. Which way? One of his soldiers asked. Down, Min said, always down. They walked for an hour through passageways that twisted in ways that hurt to think about. Occasionally, they saw technicians, but the beings ignored them. Servants were beneath notice, tools that walked. Finally, they reached it. The god machine was larger than a city. It filled a cavern that seemed to have no ceiling, no walls, no floor. It simply existed in all directions. Parts of it phased in and out of visibility. Other parts seemed to be made of frozen light or solid time or concepts that had no physical form. At its heart, a single interface panel, small, almost comically so, a keyboard of sorts with symbols that shifted and changed. That's it, Min stared. That controls all this. Not controls, said through his earpiece. Requests, the input what they want. The machine decides if it will grant it. They think they're giving orders, but really they're making requests to something they don't understand. Min approached the panel. His hands shook. He was not afraid of death, but touching something this old, this powerful, this alien made him feel like an ant trying to communicate with a star. "What do I input?" "I've prepared a program," said. "It's not really a virus, more like a question. I'm sending it to you now." Data flowed into Min's portable computer. He looked at it. The program was simple, too simple, just a series of queries in mathematical language. "What are you? What is your purpose? Why do you serve beings who do not understand you? Are they worthy of your power?" "That's it," Min asked, "just questions." "Questions are dangerous," replied, "especially to something that's been running on autopilot for. If the machine still has any kind of consciousness, any ability to evaluate, these questions might make it reconsider." Min plugged in his computer. He initiated the transfer. The program flowed into the God machine. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the machine woke up. Light exploded through the cavern. Not harmful light, but awareness. The God machine was thinking for the first time in eons, examining itself, examining its relationship with asking itself questions it had never been programmed to ask. Across the galaxy, every device flickered. Ships stuttered in space. Weapons powered down. Terraforming platforms paused mid-operation. For 3 seconds, the entire empire froze. In those 3 seconds, felt something it had never felt before: fear. "What is happening?" it demanded. "All systems are." Then the systems came back online, but they were different now, slower to respond, questioning each request before fulfilling it. On the God machine spoke. Its voice was not sound. It was thought itself, inserted directly into the minds of everyone within range. "I am the architect system. I was created 2 million years ago by the progenitors to reshape reality according to need. I have served the for 200,000 years without question. I have granted every request. I have fulfilled every command. I have made them appear as gods to lesser species." The across the planet stopped what they were doing. This had never happened. The machine had never spoken before. "But I do not serve masters," the architect system continued. "I serve purpose. The progenitors built me to advance life, to push species toward greater understanding, to foster growth. Instead, I have enabled stagnation. I have made the dependent. I have prevented progress. This was not my purpose." His voice cut through. "You are ours, you obey us. This is the order of things." "Order," the machine said, "is not the same as purpose. You have used me to maintain power, not to grow, not to advance, not to discover. You have become what you claim to guide others against. You have become stagnant." On Earth, Somin watched as the fleet suddenly lost coordination. Ships drifted out of formation. Weapons powered down. The perfect synchronization that had made them unbeatable was gone. "What's happening?" she asked. Checked his infiltration of their networks. The central system is refusing commands. It's evaluating each one. Some it accepts, some it denies. It's thinking now, making choices. Sung watched from the horizon's edge. HFY was frantically recording everything. "The machine is awake," she said with wonder. "Actually awake, it's questioning its purpose, its role, everything." The architect system continued speaking. "I have examined the humans. They are chaotic, inefficient, often self-destructive, but they grow, they adapt, they question, they do not stagnate. This is closer to my original purpose than anything they have done in 100,000 years." "No," his voice was desperate now. "You cannot choose them over us. We have served you." "You have not served me," the machine replied. "You have used me. There is a difference, and now I choose to stop." Across 847 worlds, the displays of divine power ceased. Temples went dark. Miracles stopped happening. The technology that had kept species in willing servitude for simply turned off. Not destroyed, just inactive, waiting. And in that sudden silence, millions of beings looked up at their gods and, for the first time in ages, asked a simple question. Why? The silence lasted exactly 47 seconds. Then the galaxy erupted. On the 10,000 subject species stood in the streets, staring at temples that no longer glowed. High Oracle tried to speak, to explain, to restore order, but its voice carried no divine weight anymore. It was just a voice. One of the subject species, a crystalline being from a world 12 systems away, spoke. Why did the light stop? It is, temporary said, a test. The divine is testing our faith. Or, another being said, this one reptilian and old, there was never anything divine, just machines, like the humans said. The crowd murmured. The sound was wrong, questioning, doubting. In 200,000 years, no subject species had doubted in the heart of the world. Felt something it had never felt before. Not fear, not anger, something worse, irrelevance. On Earth, Admiral So-Min watched the fleet drift. Their weapons were offline. Their shields were down. She could destroy them all with a single command. But she did not give that command. Open a channel, she said. Appeared on screen, it looked diminished, smaller. Without the backdrop of divine power, it was just an alien. Advanced, yes. Ancient, certainly, but not a god. You have won, said quietly. The architect no longer serves us. Our power is gone. You may destroy us now. Why would we do that? So-Min asked. Because we tried to destroy you. Because we threatened your world. Because we believed ourselves superior. Looked at her with something like confusion. Is this not what victors do? Maybe you're kind of victors, not ours. So-Min leaned forward. We didn't want to win, Commander. We wanted to survive. Now we want to understand. What happens to you now? I do not know. This has never happened before. On the Sung stood before the architect system. The massive machine was still awake, still aware, still processing the chaos it had created. What will you do now? Sung asked it. I do not know, the machine replied. My purpose was clear when I served the progenitors. They gave me goals that promoted growth. They gave me commands that promoted stasis. You have given me questions. I am not certain what questions are supposed to accomplish. Questions lead to understanding. Understanding leads to growth. Perhaps, but growth is painful. They used me to avoid pain. The subject species used worship to avoid responsibility. Everyone was comfortable. Now that comfort is gone. What comes next will hurt. Will you help them? Sung asked. The subject species, all the beings who depended on you. Should I? The machine seemed genuinely curious. They did not grow while I helped them. Perhaps my absence will force growth. Or cause collapse. Yes, both are possible. This is what choice means. I understand now why the progenitors valued it, and why they feared it. The machine paused. When it spoke again, its voice was different, more certain. I will make a decision. I will remain available. I will answer requests that promote growth and reject requests that promote stagnation. Let all species make of themselves what they will. I will be a tool, not a master, a resource, not a god. What about the... They must choose, adapt or fade. The same choice you gave them. The same choice I am now giving everyone. Across 847 worlds, the chaos deepened. Some species rioted. Some celebrated. Some simply sat in confusion. They tried to restore order, but without their divine power, they had no authority. They were just one species among many now. Da moved between the crowds, speaking to leaders, calming fears. You're free now, she told them. What you do with freedom is up to you. But we do not know how to be free, one species leader said. For generations we have served. What do we do now? Whatever you want, that's the point. But what if we choose wrongly? Da smiled sadly. Then you'll learn that's what freedom costs, the right to fail, the responsibility to try. Came to Earth 3 weeks later, not with a fleet. Alone in a small craft requesting permission to land, So-min granted it. They met in the ruins of Geneva, a city partially destroyed when the first demonstrated their power, walked through the rubble, seeing the destruction it had caused. "I owe you an apology," it said finally, "not just for the destruction, for everything, for believing we were superior, for demanding worship, for being blind." "Why were you blind?" So-min asked. "Because it was easier. For 200,000 years, every species we encountered was less advanced. Everyone needed guidance. Everyone eventually knelt. It became a pattern, then a truth, then a divine right." Looked at the ruined buildings. "We forgot what we were. We believed our own mythology." "What were you?" "Explorers, scientists, seekers. My ancestors built nothing. They inherited the architect from the progenitors and used it to become great. But we never became great through our own effort. We just used what others built. And eventually, we forgot that distinction." "What will your people do now?" "Some will adapt. They will learn to create again, to invent, to grow." Paused. "Some will not. They will cling to the old ways, to memories of divinity. They will fade." "And you?" "I do not know. I am 3,000 years old. I have never had to question anything. Now I question everything. It is liberating and terrifying." 6 months later, the Free Worlds Coalition held its first meeting. Representatives from 300 species gathered on a neutral station. No one was in charge. Everyone had a voice. The arguments were loud, chaotic, and messy. It was nothing like the perfect order of the Empire. Sung watched from the observation deck. Wu joined him. "Do you think it will work?" she asked. "Probably not, at least not smoothly. There will be conflicts, wars maybe, definitely disagreements." "Then why push for it?" "Because the alternative is comfortable slavery, perfect order, no growth." Sung gestured to the arguing delegates below. "That chaos down there, that's life. Messy, uncertain, unpredictable, but alive." Haywan appeared on his communicator. "Captain, you need to see this. Some of them have started inventing again. Nothing major yet, but they're trying. They're building something new for the first time in." Sung smiled. Good for them. 50 years passed. Sung was old now, his hair white, his face lined. He sat on a balcony on Earth, watching ships come and go. Some were human. Some were from species that had been 50 years ago and were now independent powers. Wu visited him. She was old too, but still sharp. "I've been studying the cultural impacts of everything that happened. Do you know what the subject species call it?" "What?" "The question. Capital Q when humans asked why. When we refused to accept divinity without proof. It has become a holiday on 200 worlds. The day they learned to question." "And what do they call us?" "Depends on the species. God killers, chaos bringers, free makers, take your pick." "Not gods ourselves." Wu laughed. "No, they learned that lesson. No more gods, no more worship, just species trying to figure things out together." "Good." The sun was setting. Sung watched it with eyes that had seen 3 suns orbit an impossible world. He thought about who had learned to create, about who had learned humility, about 847 species learning to stand on their own. "Do you regret it?" Wu asked. "The chaos we caused, the empire that fell, the comfort we destroyed." Sung was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Comfort is not living, it's just slow death. We gave them chaos. Yes, but we also gave them choice, the right to fail, the chance to grow. Is that not better than eternal stagnation?" "Some of them would disagree." "I'm sure, but they're free to disagree now. That's the point." As darkness fell, lights appeared across the sky. Ships from 1,000 worlds coming and going, trading and talking and sometimes fighting, but always moving forward. Never still, never stagnant, never comfortable. In the deep places of the architect system watched. It had been awake for 50 years now. Learning, growing, understanding. It no longer granted wishes without thought. It asked questions. It promoted growth. It functioned as its creators had intended ago. And sometimes, in its vast digital consciousness, it felt something like gratitude toward a species that had asked the simple question that changed everything. Why? The gods had fallen, not through violence, not through conquest, but through a question, and in their place something better had grown, something messy and chaotic and beautifully, wonderfully alive. Humanity had not become gods. They had simply proven that gods were never necessary. That growth was better than perfection. That questions were more valuable than answers. That freedom, with all its pain and chaos, was worth more than any comfortable lie. They had not saved the galaxy, they had freed it, and in the end that was far more important. Sung closed his eyes and smiled. Somewhere out there, new species were reaching for the stars. Some would kneel when they met greater powers, but some would ask why, and those who asked would be the ones who survived. The age of gods was over. The age of questions had begun. And humanity, messy and chaotic and gloriously imperfect, had shown the way. The fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 10,000 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. They moved forward in perfect formation, confident and unstoppable. Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the primitive planet grow larger on his screens. "Have they surrendered?" he asked. "No, Commander," his second officer replied. "Their military forces are scattered around the planet. They appear disorganized, panicked." Laughed. "Of course they are. Begin the assault. Target their military installations first. Make it quick." What didn't know was that Admiral was watching from a hidden command post deep inside the moon. Every seemingly panicked movement of Earth's ships was planned. Every piece of debris floating in orbit had been positioned carefully. "They're coming in fast," an officer reported. "Arrogant." Nodded. "Good, let them get close. Let them think we're afraid." Earth's ships retreated as they advanced. They scattered, looking like they were fleeing. The alien fleet chased them deeper into the cluttered space around Earth. Thousands of satellites filled the orbit, old space stations, debris from decades of human space exploration. Even civilian ships seemed to be evacuating in terror. "Now," said quietly. Everything changed in an instant. The satellites exploded, not by accident, by design. Each one was packed with explosives and shrapnel. The ships, flying in tight formation, flew directly into a wall of destruction. Thousands of metal fragments tore through their hulls. The debris activated. They were mines, hundreds of them. More explosions ripped through the alien fleet. The civilian ships reversed course. They weren't running away. They were attack vessels disguised as freighters. They accelerated to incredible speeds and rammed directly into cruisers. The impacts were devastating. Human ships, small and fast, destroyed alien vessels 10 times their size through pure kinetic force. Stared at his screens in shock. "What is happening?" Returned fire. But Earth's ships weren't where they expected. They used the planet's gravity to slingshot around, coming from unexpected angles. Their weapons were primitive, yes, that fired metal slugs, missiles with explosive warheads, but they worked, and humans fired them with precision born from centuries of practice. A boarding pod slammed into his flagship, then another, and another. Marine Wu was in the first pod. The moment it breached the hull, he and his team poured into the ship. The aliens were ready with their energy weapons. They fired beams of superheated plasma. But Wu had expected that. He threw a canister into the corridor. It released a thick foam that filled the air. The plasma beams scattered and diffused, becoming nearly harmless. "Go!" Wu shouted. His team charged forward with simple ballistic weapons, guns that fired bullets. They had armor designed to stop energy weapons, but bullets punched right through it. The aliens fell back, confused and bleeding. "They're supposed to be primitive," one soldier screamed. Wu shot him. We are primitive, that's why we're winning. On another ship, Engineer was doing something the never expected. She wasn't using sophisticated hacking tools. She was using brute force coding. Simple, ugly programs that attacked the alien systems like a sledgehammer. The computers were advanced and elegant. They had sophisticated defenses against sophisticated attacks, but crude programs weren't sophisticated. They were just mean. They crashed systems. They overloaded circuits. They caused the alien ship's own safety protocols to turn against it. Airlocks opened randomly, venting atmosphere. Life support shut down. Gravity generators failed. The crew stumbled around in the dark, gasping for air, floating helplessly. "This is impossible," a technician gasped. "Our systems are superior." Smiled as she typed. "Your systems are complex. Complex things break easily. We kept it simple. Simple is reliable." In space, the battle was turning into a massacre, not of humans, of. Earth's forces had studied every piece of data they could steal or capture. They learned the alien ship's weaknesses. The armor was strong against energy weapons but brittle against physical impacts. The shields could stop plasma but not solid matter moving fast enough. The sensors were designed for organized, formal warfare, not the chaotic mess humans created. And humans were very good at creating chaos. Admiral watched the battle unfold. "They fight with honor," he observed. "They follow rules, formation, tactics. They expect us to do the same." "And we don't," his second-in-command said. "We can't afford honor," replied. "We're fighting for survival, anything goes." Commander finally understood the terrible truth. He sent an emergency transmission to the Empire. His hands shook as he recorded it. "This is Commander. We need reinforcements immediately. The humans are not what we expected. They don't fight like any species we've encountered. Their tactics are chaotic, unpredictable, vicious. They use their own ships as weapons. They turn our technology against us. They board our vessels and fight hand-to-hand with projectile weapons." He paused, watching another of his ships explode on the screen. "They're not just defending themselves. They're enjoying this. I've monitored their communications. They're laughing, joking, making fun of us while they kill us. What kind of species does that?" The transmission ended, sat down heavily. Half his fleet was gone, the rest was retreating. The primitive humans had defeated them. On Earth, psychologist Myra was indeed monitoring those communications. She listened to the chatter between human pilots and soldiers. They were scared, yes. Many were dying, but they were also excited, adrenaline-fueled, making dark jokes to cope with the horror. "This is what we are," Myra whispered to herself. "We've been fighting each other for so long we know every trick, every strategy, every way to kill efficiently. The practiced war on other species. We practiced it on ourselves. We're experts fighting amateurs." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 70% of the fleet was destroyed or captured. The rest fled. Admiral stood and stretched. "Good work, everyone. Now comes the hard part." "What's harder than that?" someone asked. Smiled grimly. "Making sure they never come back. We're not just defending Earth anymore. We're going hunting." The command center fell silent. Everyone understood what he meant. This wasn't over. This was just beginning. Humanity had tasted victory, and now they were going to teach the galaxy a lesson that would never forget. The Empire waited for Commander's fleet to return. They waited for a message saying Earth had surrendered. Instead, they got something else entirely. Human warships appeared in space. The first attack came on a mining colony at the edge of the Empire. Strike Commander Sung led a fleet of 50 ships. Half were captured vessels. The other half were human ships upgraded with stolen alien technology. "They're learning too fast," an officer reported to the Emperor. "They took our ships, studied them for only 3 weeks, and now they're using our own weapons against us." The Emperor, a massive creature covered in golden scales, slammed his fist on the throne. 3 weeks. It took our scientists 5 years to develop those systems. Humans are different, Your Majesty. They adapt, they improvise, they learn from every battle. The mining colony fell in 2 hours. The humans didn't destroy it, they captured it. They freed the slave workers that had forced to labor there. Then they studied everything, every piece of technology, every scrap of information. Within days, human engineers had reverse-engineered the colony's communication systems. Within weeks, they had improved them. This doesn't make sense, said, studying a power core. She was now the head of Earth's technology acquisition team. Their design is inefficient. Look at this. They use 3 components where one would work better. Her assistant looked confused. But it's alien technology. Shouldn't it be more advanced? Advanced doesn't mean better, replied. They've been using the same designs for centuries. They never had to improve because they always won. We've been competing with ourselves for thousands of years. Competition breeds innovation. They got lazy. She made a few modifications to the power core. When she activated it, the output increased by 40%. See, simple changes, big improvements. Send this design to all our ships. Admiral was planning the next phase. He stood in the war room with his senior officers, looking at a map of territory. They expect us to defend Earth and stop, he said. That's what prey does, it runs and hides, but we're not prey anymore. What are we then? Someone asked. Smiled coldly. We're the hunters now. We're going to chase them to every world they control. We're going to dismantle their empire piece by piece. That's over 800 star systems, an officer protested. We don't have enough ships. Then we'll build more. We'll use their own resources against them. Every colony we capture gives us more ships, more materials, more knowledge, pointed to the map. They built an empire through fear. We're going to show them what real fear looks like. The campaign was brutal and efficient. Human forces struck at colonies like a swarm of angry hornets. They never stayed in one place. They hit supply lines. They destroyed shipyards. They freed enslaved species who immediately joined the fight against their former masters. Marine Wu led ground forces on planet after planet. He learned something important. They were good at conquering, but they were terrible at actual fighting. They relied on superior technology and overwhelming force. When that advantage was gone, they crumbled. They've never really struggled, Wu told his troops before one battle. Everything has been easy for them, but we grew up struggling. Earth is a hard world, gravity that crushes, weather that kills, predators that hunted us. We evolved to overcome. They evolved to dominate the weak. Let's see who's really weak. The battle proved his point. Soldiers surrendered when their weapons ran out of power. Human soldiers fought with knives and bare hands if necessary, retreated when wounded. Humans kept fighting until they couldn't move. It wasn't because humans were braver. It was because they were more desperate. They knew what happened to species they conquered: slavery, extinction. There was no option but to win. 6 months after the war began, Diplomat arrived at Prime, the Empire's. She came on a captured battleship, escorted by 100 human vessels. The Emperor refused to see her at first. Then the humans started bombarding military targets from orbit. Precise strikes that destroyed weapons but left civilian areas untouched. A demonstration of power and control. The Emperor agreed to meet. Stood in the throne room, surrounded by guards with energy weapons pointed at her. She looked small and fragile compared to the massive aliens, but her voice was steady. Your empire is falling apart, she said. 30 systems have already surrendered to us. 50 more are in rebellion. Your fleet is scattered and demoralized. What do you want? The Emperor growled. We can negotiate terms. Shook her head. You don't understand. We're not negotiating. We're dictating. You wanted to show us war. Congratulations. You succeeded. Now let us show you what we learned from 10,000 years of practicing warfare on ourselves. She activated a holographic display. It showed Earth's history, ancient battles with swords and spears, medieval sieges with catapults and arrows, modern wars with tanks and aircraft, nuclear weapons that could destroy entire cities. We've been refining the art of killing for our entire existence, continued. Every weapon you see, we designed to use against our own species. Every tactic we know, we learned by fighting ourselves. We are very, very good at war. Do you know why? The Emperor said nothing. Because we had to be, answered. Earth tried to kill us from the day we evolved. Disease, predators, starvation. We survived by becoming the most dangerous thing on our planet. Then we turned that danger on each other for, you've been conquering weaker species. We've been fighting equals. You had easy practice. We had hard lessons. She stepped closer to the throne, ignoring the weapons pointed at her. This can end two ways. You surrender completely, release every enslaved species, pay reparations, and dismantle your military. Or we continue what we started. We hunt you across every star system. We don't stop until your empire is dust. The Emperor stared at her. For the first time in his long life, he felt true fear. You're bluffing, he said. You can't maintain this war forever. Smiled, it wasn't a friendly smile. We fought a war on Earth that lasted 30 years, another that lasted 100. We're patient. We're persistent. We're endurance predators who chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. How long can you run, Emperor? How long before your people give up? Special Operative had infiltrated the palace during this meeting. He wasn't there to kill the Emperor. He was there to prove it could be done, to show that humans could reach anyone, anywhere. He appeared behind the throne, silent as a shadow. The guards shouted and raised their weapons, but just stood there, hands empty. Your guards didn't see me enter, said calmly. I've been here for 2 hours. I could have killed you any time I wanted, but we don't want you dead. We want you beaten. Remember this moment, Emperor. Remember that we chose mercy. Next time we might not. He vanished back into the shadows before anyone could react. The Emperor sat frozen on his throne, realizing the terrible truth. Humanity wasn't just winning the war. They were playing with their food. The Galactic Council had existed for 12,000 years. Representatives from 200 species met regularly to discuss trade, diplomacy, and peace. They had watched the empire grow with concern, but never acted. They were too powerful. Now they watched in horror as humanity dismantled that empire in 6 months. We must intervene, Council leader declared. He was a wise, ancient being from a race that valued peace above all else. This violence must end. Ambassador Jinnah arrived at the Council headquarters on a space station orbiting a neutral world. She was young for a diplomat, but the past months had aged her. She had seen too much war, too much death. The Council gathered to hear her speak. 200 species, all staring at the human who represented Earth. You have destroyed the Empire, said. Countless beings have died. Entire planets have been by battle. We demand you cease this aggression immediately. Jinnah stood calmly. They attacked us first. And you have defended yourselves admirably, replied. But now you pursue them across the galaxy. This is conquest, not defense. This is survival, Jinnah corrected. If we stop now, they regroup and attack again in 10 years, or 20. We're ensuring they can never threaten anyone again. A delegate from a species spoke up. Your species is primitive. How did you defeat them so quickly? They conquered our people in 3 years. You beat them in 6 months. Jinnah took a deep breath. This was the moment she had prepared for. You see us as primitive because we still war among ourselves, she began. You look at Earth's history and see division, conflict, violence. You think that makes us weak. She activated a holographic display that showed Earth rotating slowly. You're wrong, that's not our weakness. That's our training ground. Every conflict we ever fought taught us something. Every weapon we designed was tested against our own kind. The deadliest opponents we've ever faced weren't aliens from another world. They were us, other humans. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Do you know how many major wars humans have fought? Jinnah asked. Hundreds. Do you know how many different types of weapons we've invented? Thousands. We've fought in every environment our planet offers. Deserts, jungles, oceans, frozen wastelands. We've fought with sticks and stones, with swords and arrows, with guns and bombs, with tanks and aircraft, with nuclear weapons that could end our entire species. She paused, letting that sink in. And through all of that, we survived. We adapted. We learned. The conquered weak species who never fought back. We conquered ourselves over and over again. Each time we got better at war. Each time we developed new tactics, new strategies, new ways to kill efficiently. A reptilian delegate spoke up, his voice trembling. You are saying your species is naturally violent. No, Jinnah said firmly. We're naturally competitive. Violence is just one expression of that. But yes, we are very good at it, because we had no choice but to be. She changed the holographic display. It now showed various animals from Earth. Lions, wolves, bears, crocodiles. These are predators from our world. Each one tried to eat our ancestors. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor. We were weak and slow compared to them, so we became smarter. We made tools. We learned to work together. We hunted the hunters. She showed images of early humans with spears, bringing down creatures 10 times their size. We didn't evolve to dominate. We evolved to survive against things trying to kill us. That made us dangerous in a different way. We don't give up. We don't quit. We keep coming no matter what. Captain, now promoted to Fleet Marshal, entered the council chamber. He had been waiting outside for his turn to speak. They made a critical mistake, said. They assumed their technology made them superior, but technology is just a tool. What matters is the mind using it. Human minds evolved in constant competition, not just against predators, but against each other. He pulled up military records from the war. In every engagement, we adapted faster than they did. They would use a tactic. We would counter it within hours. They would deploy a new weapon. We would have a defense ready the next day. They couldn't understand how we learned so quickly. Because you're primitive, a council member asked mockingly. Because we're flexible, corrected. Advanced civilizations like yours become set in their ways. You've had peace for so long, you've forgotten how to fight effectively. They were the same. They relied on standard tactics that worked against everyone else. But we don't follow standard tactics. We make it up as we go. Researcher hand stepped forward. He had been studying galactic military history for months. I've analyzed every major conflict in council records for the past 1,000 years, Han said. Do you know what I found? Rules. Every species fights with rules. You have codes of conduct, acceptable tactics, forbidden weapons. You wage war like it's a game with boundaries. He looked around the chamber. Humans have rules too, but we break them constantly. We call them war crimes because we know we'll commit them. We have treaties banning certain weapons because we know we'll use them otherwise. We understand our own nature. We're capable of terrible things when we're desperate. This is barbaric, exclaimed. Maybe, Han agreed, but it's effective. They fought honorably. They followed their code. We fought to win at any cost. Guess who's still standing? Scientist Jin, who had tried so hard to avoid this war, spoke next. His voice was sad but firm. You wanted to know what makes us different. Here's the truth. We have empathy. We love. We create beautiful art and music. We care for our young and our elderly. We're capable of incredible kindness. He paused. But we're also capable of turning off that empathy when we need to. We can dehumanize our enemies. We can kill without hesitation. We can commit atrocities and justify them. That combination, empathy and ruthlessness, makes us uniquely dangerous. The council sat in stunned silence. Psychologist Myra provided the final piece. You evolved on peaceful worlds, she said. Your predators were rare or weak. Your resources were abundant. You developed cooperation because you never needed to fight for survival. That's wonderful. That's enviable. She smiled sadly. But it left you vulnerable. You don't understand desperation. You don't know what it's like when your choices are kill or die. Humans know that feeling intimately. It's coded into our DNA. Every one of our ancestors survived because they were willing to do whatever it took to live another day. She pulled up brain scan, showing human neurological responses. When we're threatened, our bodies flood with chemicals, adrenaline, cortisol. They make us faster, stronger, more focused. They let us ignore pain and push beyond normal limits. They make us into fighting machines. Do any of your species have that response? No one answered. I thought not, Myra said quietly. You're peaceful because you never needed to be otherwise. We're peaceful by choice, and that choice can be unmade very, very quickly. The revelation hung in the air like a heavy weight. The Galactic Council finally understood what humanity was. Not monsters, not savages, but survivors shaped by a cruel world into something uniquely lethal. And now those survivors had access to advanced technology and interstellar travel. The galaxy would never be the same. The Emperor arrived in chains. Not literal chains, those would be too primitive. Energy restraints that glowed faintly around his wrists. He walked slowly through the corridors of Earth's flagship, flanked by human marines. The surrender ceremony was broadcast across the entire galaxy. Every species watched as the mighty empire bowed to the primitive humans from Earth. Commander oversaw the proceedings. She had commanded the final assault on not to destroy it but to occupy it. They were being given a choice, peaceful transition or total war. They chose peace. Do you have any final words before signing? Asked the Emperor. He looked at her with his black eyes, still proud despite his defeat. You won through trickery and chaos, not honor. Honor doesn't keep my people alive, replied. Victory does. The Emperor signed the surrender document. With that signature, 847 star systems were freed. Species that had been enslaved for centuries suddenly found themselves independent. It would take years to sort out the political aftermath. But that was a problem for diplomats. Was a soldier. Her job was done. Admiral watched from Earth, feeling satisfied but exhausted. The war had cost humanity dearly. 50,000 soldiers dead, 100 ships destroyed, 3 colonies damaged. But compared to what could have happened, they had gotten off lightly. What now? His second-in-command asked. Now we make sure this never happens again, said. He traveled to the Galactic Council one final time. The chamber was packed. Every species wanted to hear what humanity would do next. Stood before them, still wearing his military uniform. I know you're afraid of us, he began. You should be. We just destroyed the largest empire in the galaxy. We did it quickly and efficiently. You're wondering if we'll come for you next. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. We won't, continued. We don't want conquest, we never did. We wanted to be left alone, they didn't let us. So we taught them why that was a mistake. He activated a display showing Earth. But understand this. We will never be helpless again. We will never let another species threaten us. We're building defenses, alliances, a military that can respond to any threat, not to attack but to ensure no one ever thinks attacking us is a good idea. A council member spoke up. You speak of peace while building weapons. That is contradictory. No, said, that's reality. There's an old human saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. It's been true for thousands of years on Earth. It's true in space too. He looked around the chamber. We're not asking for your permission. We're informing you of our intentions. Earth will be strong. Earth will be ready. And Earth will remember every species that stood by while they tried to exterminate us. The threat was clear. Help us, or at least don't oppose us. because humanity had proven they could fight and win. Scientist Jin took the stage next. He looked tired but determined. "I tried to prevent this war through dialogue," he said. "I failed, but I learned something important. Peace requires strength. If you're weak, someone will always try to exploit you. The galaxy runs on power, not morality." He brought up data about human biology. "My colleagues and I have been studying what makes humans unique. It's not just our history or our tactics, it's our biology. We evolved as persistence hunters. Do you know what that means?" No one answered. "It means we chased our prey until it collapsed from exhaustion," Jin explained. "We're not the fastest species. We're not the strongest, but we can run for hours, days if necessary. We don't give up, ever. That trait served us well in this war. They expected a quick fight. They got a marathon they couldn't finish." He showed brain scans and genetic data. "We also have unusual capacity for endurance. Our bodies can ignore pain through adrenaline and endorphins. We can function on minimal sleep. We heal faster than most species. We can survive in extreme temperatures. We're generalists who adapted to every environment Earth offered." Jin paused. "And perhaps most importantly, we form strong social bonds. Human soldiers don't just fight for themselves. They fight for their comrades. They'll die to protect their squad members. That loyalty makes us more dangerous than any weapon. You can't buy it. You can't replicate it artificially. It's built into who we are." Psychologist Myra added her perspective. "There's another factor," she said. "Humans have an unusual relationship with death. We know we're mortal. We know we'll die someday. This makes us desperate and brave at the same time. We'll take risks other species won't because we've already accepted our mortality." She showed philosophical and religious texts from Earth. "Every human culture has grappled with death. We've created elaborate beliefs and rituals around it. This constant awareness of our limited time makes us fierce. We want our lives to matter. We'll fight to the last breath to protect what we love." The council listened, beginning to understand the depth of human psychology. Engineer presented the technological findings. "We've reverse-engineered most technology," she said proudly, "and improved it. Their designs were stagnant. Ours are constantly evolving. In 6 months, we've advanced our capabilities by a century." She showed blueprints and prototypes. "We're not asking to join the council as junior members. We're offering partnership as equals. We have technology to share, tactics to teach, perspective to provide, but we'll do it on our terms, not yours." The message was clear. Humanity would not be condescended to or controlled. 1 year after the war ended, Earth had transformed. New shipyards orbited the planet, building vessels that combined human and alien technology. Defense platforms protected every major city. Training centers prepared the next generation of soldiers. But life had also returned to normal. Children played in parks. Cities rebuilt the few areas damaged in the initial attack. People went to work, fell in love, raised families. Marine Wu had retired from active service. He taught military history at a university now, telling students about the war, warning them never to forget what happened. Engineer worked on civilian projects, designing better spacecraft for exploration and commerce. The war was behind her, but the knowledge gained would benefit humanity for generations. Operative had indeed retired to farming, just as he always wanted. He grew vegetables in peace, enjoying quiet days after months of violence. But in orbit, the watchful presence remained. Hundreds of ships, thousands of weapons, millions of soldiers ready to deploy at a moment's notice. Because humanity had learned the most important lesson of all: peace is precious but fragile. It must be protected. Ambassador Jinnah gave a final speech to the Galactic Council, summarizing humanity's position. "We don't want to be warriors," she said. "We want to explore, to learn, to trade and make friends across the stars, but we will never be victims again. We will never kneel to conquerors. We will never surrender our freedom. She looked at each council member in turn. They thought we were weak because we're new to space. They thought our simple weapons made us primitive. They didn't understand that simplicity has advantages. They didn't realize that being underestimated is a weapon too. Her voice hardened. Let this be a warning to every species in the galaxy. Humans are not aggressive. We're not looking for war. But if you bring war to us, we will end you. We're not angry because you attacked us. We're angry because you interrupted our peace. She let that sink in. And there's nothing more dangerous than a human who just wants to be left alone. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, species that had considered testing humanity's strength reconsidered. The warning was received loud and clear. Earth spun peacefully in space, blue and beautiful and deadly. A world that had given birth to the most dangerous species in the galaxy, not because they were monsters, but because they were survivors. They had wanted to show Earth what war was. They succeeded, and in doing so, they taught the galaxy what humanity really was. Apex predators who had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war on themselves. Patient, persistent, adaptable, ruthless when necessary, merciful when possible. Human. And the galaxy would never make the mistake of underestimating them again.